Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
It's official. We need to start taking New Balance seriously because they're not messing around anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, the brand new New Balance Furon V7 Pro. I'll say it right now. If you're on the market for a pair of brand new speed boots, you need to have these on your list of considerations because they very well might be the best ones of 2022. With the example I have here being part of the first edition gold pack, which was released in limited quantities, retailing for $230, but it is now readily available in regular colorways for $5 less at $225, making it really affordable compared to your other options, no matter how you look at it. We're gonna discuss why I think these are so great, talk about where I think there is some room for improvement still because no boot is perfect, take a look at how they fit and feel on feet, and ultimately conclude where I think these rank amongst all the new speed boots to come out in 2022. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around. And if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail prices by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. So starting off with what I think is the highlight aspect of the new Furon V7 Pro, the upper. It features their Hypo Knit material, which has been completely reworked over what we saw in both variations of the Furon V6, where it had an excellent knitted upper, but it was definitely still on the more padded side of things. It was going for more of a sock-like sensation, and this still has that in terms of being really soft, pliable, and flexible. It has that sock-like level of comfort, but they've thinned it out. I would say it's about half as thick as it used to be, but still has that slight amount of padding, especially in the internal liner, with your polyurethane top layer over top, creating a feel for the ball that is very raw, but not so pingy that if you get stepped on or if you make contact with the ball, it doesn't feel like you have that little bit of cushion. So for me, really thin, definitely on the barefoot side of things, but just with enough padding to take the edge off. It's the off-centered lacing system, however, that really makes this stand out from the crowd, in that the laces are pushed way to the outside of the boot, giving you this really clean striking surface across the top of the foot. These are football boots that you put on your feet and immediately want to hit a ball as hard as you can. What's even more impressive about this design is how closely this medial section and upper section of the upper wraps your foot, given how far to the side this lacing system has been pushed. That's something that is typically a major downside of having off-centered lacing systems. You just have this huge surface area free of any laces that's really difficult to get that close wrap. Not only do they wrap your foot really closely, leaving the upper free of any kind of really ugly creases, they feel remarkably secure, and you can see they've done some structure elements across the top of the foot where you would typically find the laces, almost in like a cross pattern like laces would normally be positioned, but obviously maintaining that super thin feel to the upper. And the construction is really unique in that you can see this upper kind of wraps across the top of the foot, and then underneath that you have this elasticated knit material that almost acts as a one-piece upper. It's attached right here on the lateral side, then it kind of tucks underneath. So if I loosen the laces, you can see that this stretchy knit sock wraps across the top of your foot, almost creating a one-piece enclosure, but it's fully independent of this piece that wraps over top. They're not connected in any way at all, and I think that's the recipe for success here in terms of how this is able to work, and that you throw this boot on, and because of this internal sock, it really feels like it hugs your foot really closely, and then the way that they've designed this lacing system really does an excellent job of pulling this medial side of the upper around your foot in such a way that not only fits well and provides good lockdown, but is also extremely comfortable. And speaking of comfort, New Balance arguably prioritizes that more than any other brand, in that while I have the regular fit version here for review, that's the one that fits my foot the best, they also make this in a wide fit variation if you want a speed boot but happen to have wider feet. That's an option that no other brand gives you. Moving to the rear, New Balance has opted to keep things pretty simple with a standard low-cut design, something that I think makes sense for a lightweight speed boot. There's a little bit of kind of this elasticated knit extension around the edges, a bit of a tail, a bit of a tongue across the top of your foot, but it's so stretchy and so loose that it really doesn't feel like anything when you have the boots on your feet, but something to be aware of nonetheless. We have an internal plastic heel counter, so nice and solid, basically a carryover element from the previous generation. The heel liner is this soft microfiber material with plenty of padding, more so than what we had previously in the Furon line. And I would say it feels pretty tight out of the box. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but after half an hour or so, especially if you take things light, you're unlikely to have any issues with discomfort and certainly blistering. The padding softens up really nicely, compresses just that little bit, and you end up with great comfort and even better lockdown. Then as far as the insole is concerned, this one is missing some of the branding, but it does have their InfiniGrip liner on the surface, which has this really soft silicone texture to help grip your socks and prevent your foot from sliding inside the boots. I wouldn't say it's quite as grippy as the lining that Puma does in some of their top-end models, which is pretty similar to this, but it's still a really nice feature nonetheless. And then as far as the insole is concerned, it's very lightweight, but it does admittedly feel like fairly cheap black foam. Not really the reason why you buy these boots, and really not that far off from other speed boots out there, but certainly not impressive. You'll notice that the base of the Furon V7 Pro has not changed from the previous generation. The sole plate tooling and stud pattern is a direct carryover, which I personally take no issue with whatsoever. It's a solid plastic sole plate with a little bit of that spring back effect through the forefoot. I wouldn't say it's a standout in terms of the amazing sole plate technology that's currently out there, but it gets the job done and feels nice and solid underfoot, which I think is what most people are looking for. And then as far as that FG stud pattern is concerned, I talked about this in previous Furon videos. It's a little bit of a copy of the FG stud pattern Nike used to have on the Mercurials, but now that they've swapped to this kind of three-sided shaped stud rather than the chevron blades, I guess this kind of stands out as being a little bit more unique now. It's super aggressive. If you're looking for as much bite as possible, this is going to be as aggressive as any speed boot FG stud pattern currently on the market, and overall, just a great performer. Which brings us to the weight, where I thought it'd be fun to compare the Furon V7 Pro to another amazing speed boot in the Vapor 15 Elite, just to see which one is lighter. Both in the same size, 9.5 US. We'll start off with the Vapors, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.6 ounces, the equivalent of 187 grams. Really, really light. Change the scale back to ounces, and we'll throw on the Furons, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.35 ounces, the equivalent of 180 grams, 7 grams less than the Vapors. And if you're comparing it to all of the 2022 top-end speed boots from Nike, Adidas, and Puma, these are lighter than all of them. And if you care, a couple grams lighter than the Furon V6 Plus Pro that it replaces as well. On feet, the Furon V7 Pro feels incredible. And in terms of comparing the fit and feel to something else, the only thing I can really compare it to is that of a really good fitting laceless boot, but without all the issues with lockdown and general sloppiness, because you do have the adjustability and setting the tension of the upper with that off-centered lacing system. However, it's pushed so dramatically to the outside of the upper, they really don't feel any of that pressure across the top of your foot. Instead, the pressure is being evenly distributed by way of the upper that does have that little bit of kind of a lacing structure in terms of reinforcement, and it just makes for this perfect wrap around your foot where you can see, despite this area of the upper being free of any kind of lacing system, it just wraps really closely with no ugly creases or extra space whatsoever. They totally nailed this design along with the shape of the boots. They fit incredibly well, and the feel of this knitted hypo knit upper is just awesome. It's super flexible, it's soft, kind of reminds me of the Speedflow upper, but with a little bit more softness and a little bit of extra padding, which is definitely not a bad thing whatsoever. It feels structured in all the right places. There's just not much that I can complain about. Like I said, out of the box, I did notice that the heel was a little bit tight, but it goes away after about 20 minutes or so. Just something to be aware of during the break-in process. And the feel of the sole plate is also fantastic underfoot, so no complaints there. As far as width is concerned, it can always be tricky when you go with an off-centered lacing system like this, but they seem to have plenty of width to them, and this is just the regular fit variation. For most people, as long as you don't have excessively wide feet, regular fit is probably the way to go. But if you do have really wide feet, again, they do have that wide fit option, something that you're not going to find from any other brand. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to get a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, the New Balance Furon V7 Pro is phenomenal. There's no other way to put it. They're lighter than all the latest speed boots. They're arguably the most comfortable. They fit incredibly well while giving you this really clean striking surface because of that off-center lacing system, and the sole plate and stud pattern is as aggressive as anything, coming in at a price tag that is significantly lower, $25 less, than what you're going to find from Adidas and Nike alternatives. And while the Puma Ultra Ultimate is technically less expensive at $200, I just don't think they're anywhere near as good as these are. So for me, if it's between these and the Ultras, these all day long. If it's between these and the Speed Portals, I'm picking these all day long. If it's between these and the new Mercurials, I have to say I really like that new Air Zoom tech Nike has implemented in those football boots, and that to me is kind of the decision that you have to make this year. It's the Mercurials or the Furon V7 Pro, but right now, purely based on the fit, feel, and comfort provided by this upper, certainly if you have wide feet because of the wide fit option, the New Balance Furon V7 Pro should be the speed boot that you should consider. They're that good.